Today we're going to Mark Williams's property to talk to him about his livestock containment system and its advantages in any season. G'day Mark.
Yeah, g'day Michelle, how are you?
Good. Mark runs a mixed enterprise located in Cavendish in southwest Victoria. He runs 10,000 head of sheep over 900 hectares. His livestock containment feeding is a key tool in the management of his farming system. Mark, tell us about your livestock containment area and what you use it for.
Basically at the moment I'm using it for three reasons. One is it's there ready to go if there's a drought and I can shut up most of my sheep. The second reason, which I use every year, is to put the stock in at the break of the season to give myself a feed wedge. And this year for the first time I'm anticipating drafting off triple lambing ewes and lambing them down in the containment lot.
So what sort of issues are you negating on your farming system by using livestock containment?
Basically I'm able to keep my ground cover at around about 80% is what I'm aiming for. And it also lets me get some paddocks ready for twin lambing ewes, getting them up to 1,500–1,600 kilos of dry matter by the middle of August.
And when did you first use livestock containment?
The first year I ever used livestock containment was in the 82 drought back in South Australia.
So you've changed your property. You first started farming in South Australia and you've now moved to this property here in Cavendish?
Yes, that's right. Chasing more rain.
So when did you move here?
The summer of 2007, so January 2007.
But you've used livestock containment in South Australia on your property there?
Yes. We only used it as a drought management tool in South Australia. Didn't use it for building a feed wedge.
So by coming here, it gave you the confidence to implement that in the higher rainfall zone?
Probably because we started to understand better, having done lifetime ewe, the importance of having more feed on offer for twin lambing ewes, and the containment area was a tool to be able to enable us to do that.
So have your uses for livestock containment changed over the time?
Yes, initially it started off as just purely a drought tool. Once in 7 or 8 years would have been the use. And then now that we're going to the building the feed wedge, it's nearly every season that it's going to be used. And this year, lambing the triple lambing ewes in there will be completely new to me. I think that'll only be an opportunity thing when there's enough dry matter able to grow once the sheep leave the containment lot to build up a feed wedge for the triple lambing ewes. And this year that's obviously going to happen.
So when making that decision to put the livestock into containment, what are your trigger points or your rules of thumb?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to keep it at 80% ground cover, so wethers will be the first sheep to go into the containment lot because they're just easier to manage. And as paddocks are bearing out, then more and more sheep will go in.
And you're using forecasting to see when rainfall is going to occur and the break, potentially?
I'm always looking at weather forecasts, so it's always in the back of my mind. The going in is purely based on a ground cover thing. It's nothing to do with when the break is forecast. The only proviso to that is if there is quite a bit of dry matter around still and the break occurs, I will sometimes put wethers in right on the break so the green feed is able to get up and get away, particularly the phalaris, getting as much leaf matter as it can so it gets to its highest potential.
How about we go out and have a look at your livestock containment area?
Yep, fine.
The livestock containment areas are a bit like a hotel, really.
Yes.
They don't have to go far.
Yeah, the only trouble is it's not 5-star, it's only 3. Bit of straw, no hay.
So what are the key features of your stock containment area here, Mark?
Yeah, well, essentially, I've got 4 pens here. They're about 1/3 of a hectare each. They're close to my sheep yards, close to a shed there where I keep some straw. I also dump straw out here alongside, ready to go. I've got shade. I've got some slope on the land, so water drains off once we do get to the break of the season. And I was also close to a water pipeline that I could just tap into to set the water system up.
And you've got your laneway system behind us here you can move stock up to the sheds when you need to and move stock around.
Yes. The farm's pretty well set up in that respect, luckily. So it's a real help if sheep can't go the wrong way. And it also means I can use the containment lots over the winter and into the spring just to put sheep in ready to go up into the yards to do another job.
Yeah, it'd be real handy at shearing, I imagine.
No, I don't tend to use it very much at shearing, mostly because I shear in March and I could already have sheep in the containment lot. So, I've got better shelter elsewhere if I need shelter off shears.
So how many livestock can you hold in each pen?
Yeah, I tend to ideally have about 700 or 800 in each pen, but I'll push it out to 1,000 to 1,200 just because of the number of pens I've got and the number of stock I've got. I'll push it to that 1,200 in the really dry season where I have to get everything out of the pasture paddocks.
And what sort of classes of livestock do you start with?
Yeah, I'll start with the older wethers first because I'll run wethers out to 5 or 6 years of age. And then I bring in the 1-year-old wethers, and then it'd be older ewes, and then the 1-year-old ewes. I don't think I'd ever run that year's lambs, so they'd be 3 or 4 months old when the older sheep are coming in here. I think no matter the season, I think I'd run them out in a paddock still.
And how do they behave in the yards? Are they happy in the pens? Do they take a little while to settle in?
No, they really don't take any time at all to settle in because I will have been trail feeding them out in the paddock before I've brought them into the pens. In fact, they're probably happy to come in the first time because there'll be some standing dry feed when they're first put in. And once I've been in there a week or two, they've bared it right out. They've got the straw back there, so you drive up here at 9 o'clock in the morning, they'll all race over to the fence to have a look at you to make sure you're not coming in a gate to feed them. And then once I've worked out they're not being fed, well, they just go back and stand under the trees. A day like today, if it's a bit cool and the sun's out, you'll see them, they'll just be sitting down. 1 or 2 will wander up and have a drink whenever. Yeah, they really are fairly content in here.
You were mentioning to me earlier that when you fed them in here, that you leave one pen empty and so they just get moved from one pen to the next?
Yes, that's right. We're just standing here, so if there were sheep in the paddock there by the tree, this pen was empty, I'd come in this gate, put the feed out, take the feed ute back out, shut my gate and just walk around with the gate. I've just got to be careful they're not jumping the gate before I'm ready to open it. And they'll all race in and then I'll just close the gate behind them. So then I'm ready to feed in the next pen.
So they rotate through the pens over time as you feed them?
Yes, that's right. I don't like to feed them in the pen with them because it takes... They love to jump on the ute bonnet or they like to try and run between the feed cart and ute because I've got a feeder that's towed by the ute. So I'm obviously trailing the feed out on the ground and they're quite happy to eat it off the ground.
So over the years that you've been doing this, have you made any changes to your system?
Yes. As you can see over there, I've got the PVC pipe made up into a trough. That was very good for when water supply was limited, because it meant I only lost 20 or 30 litres of water every time I cleaned the trough out. I'd just unscrew the cap at the end and clean it out, whereas the other troughs hold 200 or 300 litres of water. So the biggest issue with the PVC pipe troughs was finding a float that was accurate enough to keep the trough full and not overflow. And so once I got a more sustainable water situation, I stopped using them and put in some bigger poly troughs.
Clean water is essential for the animals, isn't it?
Yeah, I should be cleaning them out every day, but they probably get cleaned out 5 times a week in reality. It's pretty good here in the summertime. This particular site doesn't get very dusty. The combination of the sheep's urine and dung on the ground actually makes a pretty fair base, so there's not a lot of dust blowing around, which was a bigger problem in the early days back in South Australia.
So by using livestock containment, the results that you're seeing in your paddock now?
Yes. As you can see, we've got up to about 1,400 or 1,500 kilos of dry matter here, because I was able to, from the break of the season, have no stock in here because they were in the containment lot. And I've got 2 or 3 other paddocks that have got no stock in at the moment, and I'll be able to rotate them around and keep a number of my potential twin lambing paddocks at this level, or actually let it grow away a bit more yet and get up to 1,800 kilos of dry matter.
They're all looking pretty happy and content?
Yes, very.
So by implementing the livestock system and containment, have you recouped your costs from it?
Oh, well and truly. I'm able to get lambing percentages of about 140% out of my twin lambing ewes, merinos that is, so put that in context, by getting this feed wedge ahead of the ewes. And it makes management of the ewes and coming into end of summer, early autumn, so much easier.
Have you used your livestock containment in drought?
Yes, I have. We first set them up in 1982 back in South Australia in the drought back there. We just had nothing. There was blowing dust storms and everything, so I set it up there, and I probably used that particular setup another twice before we moved over here in 2007. So I haven't had to use it for drought here, because that 2007 I didn't have all my stock because that was the bad drought year here, and I was just bringing my stock at the end of that. So I was pretty lucky because I didn't have one set up here, and I'm since set up ready to go for the next one.
So by using it in drought, it's encouraged you to set this one up in the higher rainfall zone?
Oh yes. I'd hate to spend the money establishing my phalaris and everything and then losing it because I overgrazed it through a drought. And it's just so useful for other times as well.
Would you use it again in drought here?
Oh yes, definitely. No hesitation at all. Just to reiterate that, to keep my pastures in reasonable condition.
Well, thank you today for having us here and showing us around and your experiences both in South Australia and Victoria. So thank you very much, Mark.
All right, no trouble, Michelle.
No doubt farming has its challenges, and as time progresses, we are thinking up better systems to use. Mark has shown us here today that livestock containment can be used any season, not just in drought.